Welcome to another episode of College Admission TV. Dr. J.P. Novin talks with Dr. Bryon Grigsby, President of Moravian University, about AI's transformative impact on the workforce, emphasizing the need for colleges to equip all students with AI skills and integrate AI across the curriculum as a critical transferable skill.
Welcome, everyone, to Season 3 of Higher Education Presidential Podcast. This season, we're covering AI education and the future workforce. We are sponsored by directadmit.com, helping students navigate their journey to higher education with clarity and confidence. I'm excited to say that not only do we have, the podcast of these events, but we also have launched collegeadmission.tv, where you could actually watch the entire interview as well. I'm your host, JP Novin. I'm honored to be joined by President Bryon Grigsby, President of Moravian University. Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, Moravian, for our listeners who may not know, was founded in 1742, is one of the oldest universities in the United States and the first to formally educate women. Has a tradition of access and inclusion. President Grigsby, you've taken over the helm since 2013, following a huge legacy of past presidents before you. And you've had a bold transition from college to university and transformative investment in technology and innovation, record number of enrollment. I would love to see our listeners are going to be they're in for a treat. The amount of work your institution has done around AI is very inspiring. So I'd like to hear from you about the rich tradition of Moravian University and also yourself.
Thanks. Well, Moravian traces its roots back to Comenius, Bishop Comenius, who is considered the father of modern education. And he believed in the 17th century that everybody should be sent to school, including men and women. And that was radical for the 17th century. Unfortunately, it's still radical for some places today. And so that open access is all part of the DNA and the mission of the university. We house the first generation to honor society, first generation of college honor society. We have about 300 chapter members. The Moravians came to Bethlehem in 1741 and established the school in 1742 for women first and then for men second. They then taught the Native Americans in their own language, which, if you think back to 1742, was an incredibly novel idea to learn the indigenous people's language and teach them in their language. So this has kind of been the hallmark of the university, access for all. And we continue in that tradition. The other aspect that has spawned most of our growth is that Comenius also believed that education should concern itself with that which concerns society. So we are not shy about saying we prepare students for careers that are out there, because that's what concerns society. And that's been a lot of our growth has been in the health sciences, in computer science, and in business, as we've been shaping the workforce of the 21st century. And for me, I'm a graduate from Moravian, so I have the esteemed honor of leading my alma mater, which is a unique and wonderful position.
Fantastic. What an incredible history. I had no idea that, teaching Native Americans in their native language and starting a university for women at that time, talk about being ahead of their time. This is truly inspiring. Well, we have new transformations now happening with AI, and you're the perfect person to ask this question from. How do you perceive the impact of AI on the future workforce over the next 5 years?
I can honestly say that I have never seen anything that is going to be more transformational. So I was at the ASU GSV conference 3 years ago when I saw Sam Altman speak about AI and what was happening. And I called my wife and I said, how close am I to retirement? And she said, not close enough. And I said, because this is going to change everything. And I came back on the red eye from that conference to my board meeting that I had to be at, and I was still reeling from what I saw. And the board will still talk about that day that I really wasn't fully there yet. By the next day, I had some sleep and I calmed down, and we initiated a presidential task force to work on AI. We've hired a Center for Teaching and Learning that's dedicated to working with faculty on using AI. I'm teaching a class right now in where we're using AI actively in the class. I think we have to graduate every single student from colleges and universities with the skills to use AI in the workforce. I think we have great challenges, but I think you're directly to your question of how it's going to transform businesses. The statement that it's going to take your job is not accurate. The person who knows AI is going to take your job, and productivity of that person and the quality of their work is going to skyrocket. And we have to prepare students for that world that they're going out in, and that's our number one job.
Well, you are a PhD in English. Who would have thought you'd be teaching artificial intelligence?
Well, I'm a medievalist by training. And I would argue that the medieval people who are medievalists are the most open to change, because we've had to make our understanding our period relevant for a very long time. So it's all about relevance, right? Well, why do we learn something, or why do we teach something? Because it's relevant to the society. And I think that's our goal right now.
As also a humanities major in philosophy, I vividly remember reading Saint Anselm and Aquinas and how their thought process at that time. What professions do you think are at risk in the coming 5 years?
They keep saying accounting's at risk. I'm not sure I see it. I mean, maybe it is, but it seems to be booming right now. I can't make enough accountants. I think all the humanities are at risk unless the humanities change. We're a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're the 26th UNESCO World Heritage Site in the United States. And right now, our site manager, who is a Moravian employee, she's a specialist in digital humanities. And I keep explaining to the faculty that she is the way forward for the humanities. What she's doing with students in reconstructing what the medieval building, the Moravian buildings looked like in 1742, and how the building was constructed using AI and the archives, and you put on the Apple Vision Pro goggles and you can view inside the building and view people building the building back then and how they would have done that. All that stuff is the stuff humanities majors can have jobs in the new age. But if we want to just teach Beowulf to Virginia Woolf courses, that's not going to cut it. And that's the big transformative change. I think the humanities are going to have a renaissance, a revival, but it's going to be a revival with AI and with being able to create immersive experiences that are historically and culturally accurate. And that's the future, I think.
And I think that's the trick, right? I mean, you think about English majors or English literature majors, is how do you redefine that in terms of where AI stops and human brain starts, or which I don't
Right.
know what the priority is going to be, but somehow they have to commingle, right?
Right.
So
I think our greatest challenge right now in higher ed is, what does the artifact of learning look like?
Mhm.
So for the last 100 years, the artifact of learning has been the 8 to 10 page term paper. That's, if you have to be able to say it, to know that you know it, and that's the product that we've asked for students for the last 100 years, has been the paper. That has not always been the case, though. In the Roman period, it was that you could orate. Oration was the product of learning. In the Middle Ages, it was recitation, that you memorized and were able to recitate information back. In the Renaissance, it was debate, and Enlightenment was the debate. So we've had other artifacts of learning that have demonstrated we're in a period where the 8 to 10 page paper is not the artifact of learning, because AI can build a better 8 to 10 page paper, or at least an equivalent one. So what is the artifact of learning now that needs to be done? In my class is on pandemics in the world, and students are building a scalable model that eventually ends up with an AI created historically accurate video from a perspective of one person in one specific location dealing with a pandemic that is historical. That's their artifact of learning, that they're using AI to get there, but they have to know more about the period in order to make it accurate and not have any hallucinations. That's our challenge in higher ed right now.
Excellent point. So meta information, how do we go? Because information is readily, how do we go beyond that when it comes to our teaching, perhaps? And as you think about getting students ready for careers that are at risk, whether it's, AI is going to enable them, it's going to displace them, it's going to enhance them. How do you get students ready for these careers?
Well, I think you start early and continue often. Using AI is a skill. Like I would say, it's just like writing is a skill, or critical thinking is a skill. You have to do it initially when they walk in, and you have to do it repeatedly throughout the discipline so that they know how AI is used in that specific discipline. We need to be AI across the curriculum. Just like we were originally writing across the curriculum, you don't learn writing in one class about writing. You're not going to learn AI in one class about AI. You're going to learn how to use AI throughout the entire curriculum. Almost every course has to have AI embedded in it so that you know how to use it, and particularly in the discipline that you want to, your major is going to be in and that you want a career in, you're going to need to know how they use AI in that career. We have a responsibility to the students to prepare them for how they will see AI in the workforce. And, now you were just within a year, you saw, I saw a report that companies wanted people to be in specific careers to know about AI. Now they want everybody to know about AI. So it's no different than writing. It's no different than numeracy. It's no different than critical thinking. It's just got to be a skill that we have to prepare every student for.
And of course, I think the challenge is, if you look at the 19th or 20th century, we had few books, basically information would stop, people would read it, they would marinate it. Now the evolvement of information is outpacing anything that we could think of. So constantly being able to, I mean, productivity is definitely going to increase, but just keeping up with it is going to be it's going to take an art as well. And the question here is, as the world is now evolving at such an unprecedented speed, how do you create curriculum to stay ahead of this? I mean, where do you go? Because things are shifting so fast.
Yeah. So I think we've lost the content battle a long time ago. You know, the internet started that every year we were creating more content than all of human history combined. So there's no way. I've talked for, I don't know, 15 years of my academic career that if you're going to keep up with content, you're never going to work. It's never going to work. The only thing we can do is work on transferable skills. And so instead of breadth of knowledge, we're looking at depth of knowledge. And depth of knowledge is then transferable over other segments.
Okay.
And that's what AI is. It's another skill. So how do I bring information to me? How do I make sure the information is accurate? How do I make sure I understand the information? And how do I produce new information that is correct and cutting edge? The only thing that's sped up, I mean, I like the idea that it's really misnamed. It shouldn't be artificial intelligence. It should be augmented intelligence. It's really still human intelligence brought to you. It's just brought to you on a massive scale quickly. But we've lived with this before. If you go through how long did it take you to research when it was the Library of Congress and you had a card catalog system, and then we went to a Boolean search, and you know, now everything's digitized and you just Google search and you get your research a lot quicker. This is all productivity process increasing. And so now we just have to work on the depth of skills that we can use this information to produce new information accurately.
So you came from, I was actually talking to GSV last week about the next conference. And, you know, you come back from there, and I'm just going to list some of the initiatives that you have at Moravian, and please let me know what I'm missing. You have the School of Professional Studies and Innovation, the SPSI. You have the generative AI in teaching and learning. A lot of your faculty are currently using some sort of AI in their teaching and learning. You obviously spearheaded the President's task force on AI. You have Project Horizon. You have faculty workshop. You're doing stuff around cybersecurity. You're dealing with tech equity as well. I mean, you are a relatively smaller university. How do you manage to do so much in so little time?
Well, I will tell you that this is my own personal bully pulpit. Every place I've been, technology is the number one thing I care about for our students and student learning. So since I went, my graduate work started at Wake Forest. I was there when they became the first IBM ThinkPad school. And ever since I saw that transformation, I have been passionate about leveling the playing field for students with technology. I don't think there is anything that a student needs to learn more than being comfortable with technology that they're going to see in their workplace. For you and I, our careers are at the later part. We can probably skate by without being really technologically fluent, but a 22-year-old needs to be hugely technologically fluent. So this is, presidents ask me all the time, we provide every student with a MacBook, an iPad, pencil, an Apple Pencil, and an Apple Watch. How do you afford it? Well, I afford it the same way you afford a building. We pay for it with tuition. It's the priorities our institution has to make sure that every student leaves here technologically competent. It's my own personal passion, and you'll see lots of other universities have their own set passions, but this is ours. And so we focus on it. We have a lot of faculty who they want to be here because this is the passion of the institution. So it's a self-fulfilling enterprise as that occurs. We do a lot with 3D printing. Our health science program dreams up things that help other people. Occupational therapists think about products that could help people who are stroke victims, and then our computer science students build those products, and if they work, we patent them and we license them. So these are a lot of the things that are going on the campus as we talk about how we innovate with technology.
I mean, you have tremendous amount of majors in the sciences, everything from biochemistry to biological sciences. You have data science. So you have a very strong STEM program, but you also are embedded in humanities and liberal arts tradition, right? So if a parent comes to you and said, my child wants, I'm not sure if college is right for them. They want to major in Spanish or history. What is going to be the job prospect for them out there? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell the parent that if I don't know what the job prospects are going to be in the languages. I do know that our Spanish program is growing the fastest because many of our nursing students double major. I do think that the more majors that you can get, this gets back to my depth conversation, makes you the most flexible for the changing job market. So if you can get a computer science major and a philosophy degree or a language, two majors, you will have the most flexibility as the market changes. We used to say we were building the workforce for jobs that didn't exist in 5 to 10 years. We're building a market for jobs that don't exist 6 months from now. That's how rapidly it's changing. So these are why transferable skills are most important. If you came to Moravian, I would say to that parent, we'll provide your child with the transferable skills that no matter what major they have, they will be able to do something with AI, something with computer science, something that will be employable, even if that major no longer provides them with a direct line into a job that you're thinking about.
As you think about, we have a lot of regulations out there when it comes to risk assessments. I'm referring to HIPAA and SEC and FERPA, all these regulations. With this speed you just mentioned, 6 months, that's crazy. How could all these regulations even contain the innovation, the onslaught of innovation that's coming at us?
Well, they're not. That's what we're seeing. The regulations are so far behind. Think about all the regulations that were on television when we grew up, and all the regulations that aren't on the internet, aren't on AI, aren't on. They threw up their hands and they gave up in so many contexts. I think the government's trying to catch up in those areas. But the speed of change is so fast right now. Back to your first question, I've never seen anything that is this revolutionary for lowering the cost of higher ed, both on faculty delivery and on support services, AI can dramatically drop in the next 5 years the cost of higher education down as faculty are able to deploy AI tools. They could probably teach more students at a lower cost to the institution. We can handle students, tutoring students, counseling of students with AI bots that can help bring down the cost of education so that the students can get the best education possible at the lowest cost point. These are all changes that are happening right now at this moment.
And that ends up being a double-edged sword, because in one way we're increasing productivity based on the human sources we have. In other way, we actually are hiring less for current jobs. I'm not referring to future jobs, but going back to your original point of 6 months, we've studied industrial revolution, the internet revolution, you name it, automation, what have you.
Right.
The internet happened fairly fast, but this is even faster. And when I look at jobs in Amazon and Google and Airbnb, all of that is because of the internet. I'm just wondering if we have enough run rate to upscale our workforce to make sure there's no social unrest in this transition. What do you think about this concept?
I think we're at risk. Retraining is not a skill that we have demonstrated we can do well yet, right? Number one job for a man in this country is driving something. An Uber, a 18-wheeler tractor trailer, a school bus, a FedEx vehicle, it's driving something. If driverless vehicles happen, how do we retrain that entire workforce into the other jobs that are now there, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't demonstrated we're exceptionally good at that yet, retraining people. That's what our School of Professional Studies and Innovation is all about, is about how do we train people in the jobs of the 21st century if they might be in the job of the 20th century. You're 100% right that we are going to lose people as we develop AI. Hopefully, those people are now getting a better salary that we're retaining. Mm-hmm. We've lowered costs at institutions all over the country by having an adjunct pool where people run around for 4 or 5 universities collecting a lower salary than a full-time faculty member makes at a one institution. Hopefully that could go away and we could pay faculty more to be more productive and at higher salary rates. But yes, there is going to be less N at the end of the day if that is to happen.
And so as you think about your pedagogy and your curriculum, as these job shifts, do you see changes in your curriculum to reflect the job market?
Oh, absolutely. It's happening already. It has to. Back to my point that if you're going to be an English major and you're going to learn survey courses, you're not going to be employable. But if you're going to be a digital humanities specialist and you're going to learn how to do AI and how to do timelines that are interactive and how to do videos that are historically accurate, you're going to be employable for a lot of other jobs that are going to be out there. We have to change, particularly the humanities curriculum, to make them relevant to what the jobs are going to be in the future. But you also take a look at, I know a story of in a hospital here where they use AI to read all the radiography. This person came in for a problem with their liver, and there was nothing wrong with the radiology report, except the AI said you might want to look at the left lung. And noticed a spot on the left lung that was just very, very tiny, couldn't even be seen really by the human eye. and it was the start of cancer. And that person was saved by AI. A radiologist would never have been looking there. AI can look everywhere. So even in the health sciences, you're going to have to learn how to deal with AI and manage AI. That curriculum itself is going to change. Nursing is going to change the way we teach our nurses. But there's not going to be anything that's going to be radically changed more than I think the humanities will be over the next 5 to 10 years.
I'm wondering to what extent we really need to start thinking about how our brain operates versus how an AI brain operates. Obviously, we don't need a lot of energy to actually get the 86 billion neurons communicating with all the synapses. You need 20 watts to run the whole brain. I always think that I'm using less than 0.01% of my brain. But with AI, you have, is able to do things we just simply cannot do.
Right.
And so I was talking to some healthcare professionals, and they're relying more and more on AI to actually listen to patients and make recommendation. And one of the nurses brought up a very interesting point, which was, something, the empathy I have for another human being, the pain they're experiencing, that is something that's not going to go away, because I'm not philosophizing what this, I'm a human being. So I think we could taste ice cream. AI could explain it really, really well. I think this is a very interesting period that we're in, as far as where does AI stop and what can't AI do?
Right.
It's not I'm wondering about how all this is going to evolve. And as you think about degree granting process in higher education, do you see changes or disruption in that?
I'm worried about that. I'm worried about, unless higher education makes itself relevant in ways that I think we're talking right now, there could be no reason for it. But I think you're onto something. I think we're not going to know what that is, because, you think about when you were a kid or I was a kid, you had how many phone numbers of your friends memorized? Yeah. I don't have any phone numbers memorized because it's a picture on my phone. I press the button.
Exactly.
I used to be able to drive all over the place, and maybe I'd have to get a map or stop if I got lost. Almost every time I'm putting on Waze, right? So my brain's not needing to process that anymore. That doesn't mean it's not processing different things now. And I think that's going to happen with AI. Like, am I going to need to know that information, or can I access that information when I need it? And my brain is going to do different things. And to your point, it's the humanity of it, right? It's what humans feel and think and believe and can express to others that's going to make the difference. And that's what digital humanities is as well. It is enabling you to understand what it's like to feel being that person back at that time period. I think we're too early in this and to really know. I mean, every technology comes with downsides, right? I tend to be the total optimist that says it's going to be all great and hunky-dory, but it's not in reality. Social media was supposed to be great. It was supposed to bring us all together. It doesn't seem to be doing that, but it's still great to see what my friends are doing and to be connected with them. I think AI is going to have its downsides as well. But what our brain is doing, that's going to be really interesting. How that changes as we don't need to do the same things we were doing before. I mean, how many of you, you remember when we did math classes and we weren't allowed to bring a calculator?
Right.
And how didn't you have the teacher that said, well, you gotta have a calculator in your pocket every day? Yes,
Exactly.
I am. I'm gonna have a calculator in my pocket every single day. So, you know, we're just living through that change we've lived through as kids over and over again. This one's just big. It's really big.
I was reading, I don't know, it was Homo sapien or one of these historical books, and they're talking about how they could only go back 40,000 years and look at, because of DNA structure, then they have to look at, to go beyond that, they have to look at proteins and what have you, right? Anyway,
Right.
Human evolution, if you look at, we stopped biologically, evolving maybe 20, 30,000 years ago, but you're going somewhere very interesting, which is the brain evolution with this, because so much of what we relied on, I still remember my grandma's phone number.
Yep,
40
me
years
too.
ago, right?
Yeah.
So the brain evolution, like, I'm much more curious where we're going to be 50 years from now. And if there's going to be, even in 10 years, like, I'd probably be an early adopter if I could just tell my brain, hey, remind me about what happened here or there, right? It is fascinating, and I'm a little nervous about it as well, as far as where things are going. But I'm sure as if dementia hits me, I would love to have one of those in my brain so I could ask a question if I remember. But if you think about K-12, so this question comes up in every podcast, K-12, like, we know lifelong learning is not going away. We know with AI, look how much more we're working now. Those who are using AI are just working more and more and more. It's not like we're working less.
Right.
So how do we, and we experience a blip during COVID in students' learning process. But how do we train the next generation as before they come to higher education to be AI ready?
Yeah, and when does that, at some level, you have to know enough about the subject matter so you're assured that AI is not hallucinating on you, right?
Exactly.
And so the K through 12, I think the K through 12 question is a lot harder to answer than the higher ed question, which is, we're preparing kids for the world of work, and the world of work is not getting rid of AI. So we have to prepare them for that. K through 12, they're preparing them for either, they're either going into immediate professions or they're going to college. And when does the best process and best time to bring in AI is going to be a question that is difficult, I think, for people to answer. Now, when you look at some of the tools that are available in K through 12, some of it's phenomenal. There's tutors that are AI tutors that are constantly asking questions of students in a Socratic dialogue that they're not getting from their faculty, simply because there's no scale for the faculty to do that. So from my perspective, as long as you have the AI bots working in a Socratic dialogue with the students, where the students are questioning their assumptions and reflecting on their assumptions, you are doing what we want for lifelong learning, which is we want to make people reflective and critical of the thought process they have, right? So if we can do that, and then this is a generation, I love this generation that's at college right now, because this is a generation that YouTubes everything to figure out how to do something. They're self-learners, right? They're not, they'll find the lecture or they'll find the way to fix this thing that I just, searching on YouTube on how to do it. So if anything, they are the ultimate lifelong learners because they've already got the skill set. I think our question for higher ed in K through 12 is we're still in the development stage. Yeah. We are still developing the critical thinker and the lifelong learner. And that's what I think both high schools and colleges do really well, is they create this social system where children mature up, right? And they discover who they're going to be. None of us can remember any of the lectures we had as a faculty member that the faculty member gave us, but we can remember the projects we had. We can remember the student organizations we were in, the athletic competitions, all the things that are about maturing as a human being. That's still what K through 12 and higher ed needs to do until the person's ready to be a lifelong learner.
Are you concerned at all that information and all of this is going to outpace the attention to emotional intelligence, to wisdom, to mental health? Because that's a whole different ballgame. I'm not sure where, unless we get to some sort of robotics, I'm not sure how we're going to address if that might actually get exasperated during this evolution.
I think that's one of our greatest risks. I think our isolation has the potential to be catastrophic. The fact that you don't have to communicate to someone else on the street, you can just live in your virtual bubble with the same people who have the same thoughts as you. I think we're seeing repercussions of that over and over again with the mass shootings that we're seeing, and the amount of suicides and depressions and people taking drugs and alcoholism. All those things I think are keys of isolation. And I think technology, unfortunately, with its algorithms and everything else, drives those dopamine hits, and I think that's all the downside. It's real, but I do believe that the answer is in community and humanities that you were talking about before. I think we have to have a clear digital diet, just like anything else. Moderation is going to be key. We don't like to hear that. Human beings tend to be the least moderate of any animal going, but just like you can't eat donuts every day, 3 meals a day, and remain healthy, you're not going to be able to be on your phone. We have a funny thing here at Moravian. We say hi to everybody. We shake hands in our alma mater. There's a big community, is huge, and technology has at times dampened that. People put on their headphones and they go into their world, or they pretend to be on their phone and they don't greet each other. And at matriculation, I tell the students that that's not acceptable. And this last matriculation, I used a line that I've used before. I said, it's not part of civilization to ignore other human beings as you're walking past them. And if you put on your headphones and you go into your phone, I will body check you. Ask the upperclassmen if this hasn't happened to them. And I got a standing ovation from the parents in the chapel when we did this. So obviously we're seeing this as a concern, right? The question's going to be when we finally say, no, I have to be moderate in my digital diet. And I don't think we're anywhere close to that right now.
No, I haven't figured it out if my kids fully. I
haven't figured it out for me personally. But, yeah.
So last question is, what will Moravian look like 5 years from now?
I think we're going to be significantly more students online and nationally not coming to campus than we have ones that are on ground in a residential environment. Faculty are not happy when I make this analogy, but I think colleges are going to necessarily end up in a place like the airline industry. There will be people who pay for first class and business class because they want the experience of that. And so there's going to be people who want to play sports and want to be in student government and can afford to have a residential experience. And for the health and welfare of our country, there's going to be other people that pay for economy. And, like the plane, it has to get to the destination safely and effectively. And we have to get to the destination safely and effectively. So we're going to have, I already have non-consumers, 18-year-olds who have chosen that they don't want the residential campus experience. They want to go work, but they want to do their classes asynchronously, and they want to get their college degree at the same time that they're making money and working full time. I can't tell them that that's wrong. Different, I don't believe is deficient. I just believe different is different. And, COVID has created online high schools all over the place, charter schools that exist. Students are choosing that that's going to be the way they learn. Then we have to provide the education that's going to get them to the destination they need. So in the next 5 years, I can imagine Moravian being 10 to 15,000 students, with 10,000 of those students online, and they never touch the physical campus. But they're getting the education they need, and we're making sure that it's high quality and gets them the jobs they want in the 21st century.
President Grigsby, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.
Likewise.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.